Okay, so if we click this group of say blocks, it's going to count from 1 to 10. But there is potentially an easier way to do it. So we're going to click on the control palette. You're going to scroll down to the loop section. So forever, repeat 10, repeat until, and you're going to grab the for I equals 1 to 10. This is called a for loop. This is a structure that is available in most popular coding languages, Python, Java, C. They all have for loops. Most languages have a version of this. So we have used a couple different loops before, forever and repeat. So forever is basically like repeat infinity, and repeat just repeats whatever is inside a certain number of times. The for loop does that as well, but it adds a little bit more functionality. So this for loop will repeat whatever's inside 10 times, and it can be just as simple as that. Or we can do something kind of snazzy. So grab a for loop, and then I want you to also grab a say block. And I'm going to make the say blocks like 0.5 seconds, so it's not so painful to wait as it says things for a very long time. And then what we can do is grab this variable, which is I, and put it where the hello is. And then if I click that, it's going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Because what it's doing is counting from 1 to 10, and the I knows, the eyeball, the I knows what number we're on. So in the repeat block, inside the block, it knows what number we're on, but we can't use that number. With the for loop, we can use the number, the count number, basically. Okay. Yes, do this, do this. Grab a for loop, grab a say block, and drag that I into the say. And just verify for yourself that it does the exact same thing. All these 10 blocks can be condensed into this little block here. And then I could even customize it. What if I wanted to count down from 10 to 1? All I have to do is change the 10 and the 1, switch places, and now it's going to count down. With this long list of say blocks, I would have had to change every single one in order for it to do that. Or maybe I want to count from 1 to 100, or maybe I want to count from 50 to 55. Yeah, we're not going to do that. Et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so that's the power of the for loop. So we're going to do a few things during class today that kind of show you different ways that we can use the for loop. Okay, if you have any questions, put them in the chat. Otherwise, we are going to move on to the next thing here in just a sec. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. I would like you to see if you can change the numbers in your for loop so that you are counting by twos. Actually, there's 3 different challenges. So the first one is try to count by twos from 0 to 10, so 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Another one would be to count by twos from -10 to 30, like really trying to get the numbers that it counts from in 2 dialed in. Or you can try counting by tens from 20 to 100. And you're going to want this multiplication block in your solution. So the multiplication block is under operators and then right here at the top. So I'm going to give you a hint. This is kind of a big hint. That the I, doesn't really matter which one of these it goes in, needs to go in the green block, and then the green block needs to go in the say. So we're trying to count from 0 to 10 by twos, or -10 to 30 by twos, or try and count by tens from 20 to 100. Okay, try it now. See if you can get it to count by twos. Don't put the answer in the chat yet, but I do want you to put the answer in the chat in a minute. I'm going to change my for loop back to how it was at the beginning. Okay, if you got one of those challenges working, can you just say like done or got it or something in the chat so that I know where we're at? Nice. And if you finished one challenge, see if you can do another challenge. Nice. Okay, we're getting there. Okay, let's go ahead and give some hints on the counting by twos from 0 to 10. So I need to change all of these numbers except the 0.5. So I need to change the 1. What should the 1 be? Stick it in the chat. Yeah, 0, because we want to start with 0. What should the 10 be? Did you guys leave it at 10 or did you change it? 15. Is this for the first challenge or the second challenge? Not sure. Okay, what do we need to change this blank to? What number should that be? You guys figure it out. Okay. Yeah, that second number in the for loop is kind of tricky. How about this number in the say block? What should that be to count by twos? Yeah, 2. Okay, so then if I click this, yes, Jasper, generalizing whatever we're counting by, exactly right. Okay, so if I have 0 to 15, did you guys see that it went up to 30? Whatever we're counting by, this is multiplying whatever the count number is by 2. So if we're counting from 0 to 15, it's going to do 0 times 2, that's 2. 1 times 2, that's, oh, sorry, 0 times 2, that's 0. 1 times 2, that's 2. 2 times 2, that's 4. On and on and on, up until 15 times 2 is 30. So if I wanted to just stop at 10, I would need to say 5. And if I wanted to do negative 10 to 30, then I would do negative 5 times 2 is negative 10, up to 15 times 2 is 30. Okay. So as Jasper says, the number that is multiplying on the I should be whatever we're counting by. So then if I wanted to count by tens, I would just need to change that into a 10. And now this is going to count from negative 50 to 150. Blah, 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 blah. So if I wanted to count, I think it said 20 to 100. So to count from 20, that would need to be a 2. And to get up to 100, that would need to be a 10. And then that'll count 20 to 100 by tens. Okay, if you have any questions on this, stick them in the chat. Or if you need me to repeat anything, stick that in the chat. Okay, we're going to do a few different applications of the for loop. But before we do that, let's grab another for loop. Actually, I'm going to clean up my code. I'm going to right click and say clean up. And that just gets my code kind of out of the way. So we're going to grab another for loop. So back into control, scroll down to the loops, grab the for loop. And then we are actually going to rename this I variable. So I'm going to just click, not click and drag this time, but just click on the I. And that brings up a window where I can change the name of that I variable. This is not ever a requirement that we have to do this, but sometimes it's nice to know what we think that counter variable represents, because we'll use it to do stuff. And it's kind of nice to not just have an I and then forget what the I even means. Okay, so what we're going to do is do a drawing and see what it makes. Okay, so we're going to need a pen down, a move, and a turn. So pen down is under pen. I'm going to hook it onto the top. You don't have to. You could actually literally just click pen down in the palette on the side, but I'll just hook it on there. I'm going to grab a move and a turn. Doesn't really matter which turn you grab. And then the last block that we're going to need is in operators, and it's that times block again. Okay, so I'm going to change the length to from 1 to 100. My move is going to get this times block, and the turn is going to be 90. Let me know if you guys need me to slow down, okay? Or if I'm going too slow. You can be like, got it. And then I'll be like, okay, moving on. Okay, so the move is going to get our counter variable, which we've renamed length. And then let's start, what did I have it starting out as? Just 2 times length? That seems low. I'm going to do 5 times length. We'll see how that looks. If you wanted to try 2, try 2. And then see if you can predict what this is going to do before you click it, before you make it draw something in your head. See if you can predict. And then click it and see what it draws. Oh, maybe 2 was the right number. And I have the clear script with the space bar. So if you ever want to clear your screen and move your sprite back to the middle, you can just hit space. Okay, so you can see that it kind of makes a spiral, but it's like a square spiral. And I want us to play around with all of these numbers here. So the 1 to 100 first. What does the 1 do if you change it versus what does the 100 do if you change it? And then once you figure that out, move on to the move number. What does that do when you change it? And then move on to the turn number. And then we'll talk in just a sec. I'm going to go ask my daughter to be a little more quiet. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. In the first 2 numbers, what does the first number do? Like if I was going to change this to a 20, what would that do to my square? Did you guys figure that out? I'm just going to go ahead and click this. Oh, I forgot to clear my screen. So the first number controls kind of the inner part. the bigger the number, the less inner part or the bigger the hole is going to be. Yeah, and then the second number, if I make it bigger, oh, that did not make it bigger. I make it bigger, then it's bigger on the outside. So basically, these two numbers control the legs, like how long the leg is when it starts and how long the leg is when it ends, and kind of like in between there is how many legs you have. Okay, did anybody in the chat, you can put in if you figured out what the move does. If I change the move, what does that do? I'm going to change this back to 100. Like, for example, if I make it a 5 instead of a 2, how would that change it? Or if I make it a 1, how would that change it? Okay. So this move, oh my God. Hippie, 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 can you take her, please? Yeah. Okay. Oh. Nothing happened. Go on. Oh my God. Oh my. Okay, I don't even know what that was about. She like freaked out. Okay, so if I change the move number, it changes the spacing in between the legs because it's moving more or less for every leg, basically. Okay. And then did you guys experiment with the turn number? I have a very naughty dog. No. Okay. Okay, so if you found a cool turn number, stick it in the chat because there's a lot of really cool ones and they're not always, I mean, you know, when you play around enough, you find cool ones. So if you found a cool one, let us know. 118. Okay, let's try that. Do you have any recommendations for the, oh, that was pretty good actually. Ooh, triangle, spiral, 30. Okay, let's try 30. I have a feeling my move is going to be not small enough. Yeah, let me change that. Move from like 1. Oh my goodness. Cool. Kind of like a spiral that turns into a polygon. Oh yeah. So Alan, if you just click the space bar, if you used my starter code, you can just click the space bar and that will clear your screen. If you didn't get my starter code, you can always grab this clear block and that'll clear it. And so the starter code that I have, oh, let me add actually a point and direction. Sometimes it's nice to have that. Point and direction, go to, and then clear. And then that'll move you to the middle, point you to the right, and then clear your screen. Okay. Excellent. All right. Any other ones that we should try? 1 or 2 more? Anybody else have a good, cool angle? Or we can just move on. 75. All right. Ooh, a nice one. I can make that bigger. Kind of like a flower-ish, spirograph flowery kind of thing. Okay. All right, let's move on. Oh, so labeling. We talked about this before. Let's label this block with a comment. I'm going to change it back to 90 and 2. And then I'm going to right click out here in the gray area and select Add Comment. Do this too, please. So right click, Add Comment, and then I usually like to add it to the for loop kind of part of the block or the top block. And then I'm going to say squirrel. And it's called a squirrel because it is a square spiral. Okay. Ooh, 89. Let's try 89. 89 should be very close to a squirrel, perhaps. Oh, yeah. Cool. Yeah, so it's making a square, but turning it a little bit every time, and then that makes this kind of cool thing effect. There's an effect called, I don't know how to say it, it's French, it's M-O-I-R-E, moire or something. And it's the thing where, like, if you overlap lines, they'll start making like these wavy, like you're overlapping straight lines, but then they start making this wavy effect. It's really cool. And you can do that with this kind of stuff. Okay. Can you figure out, maybe you know this, how can I make the spiral, instead of going inner to outer, what could I do to make it go outer to inner? Change that back to 100 so it's not so long. See if you can do that. See if you can make it go outer to inner instead of inner to outer. Did you guys figure it out? Just switch the numbers, just like counting down or counting up. You can just switch the numbers and it'll do the longest length first and then get shorter, 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 shorter. Next. Oh yeah, okay, so nested squares is next. I'm gonna clean up my code again just to give myself some more room. And I have given you a polygon block. So if you go into the motion palette and go all the way to the bottom and grab that polygon block, this is what we made in class last time. So I figured we didn't need to build it again. You're gonna want it to be a square. Yes, hi, right, you got it. Okay, so a square would have 4 sides. It doesn't really matter what length it is, just put something in there so that you know that it's drawing a square. Shush. Okay, and then, of course, we're going to need a for loop. And we're going to put the polygon block inside the for loop. And then we're going to make a custom block for this. So let's refresh our memory about how to make a custom block. So 2 ways. You can go into motion or whatever color block you want to make, but in this case, we want a blue block because it's moving. And we're going to click make a block. Or you can right click on the gray area and say make a block. And then if you do the kind of more generic click on the gray area, then you have to tell it which color you want it to be. Okay, and we are going to draw a certain number of squares. So draw percent number. The percent number is going to be that orange variable oval. So draw some amount of, draw like nested squares. Okay, and then once I hit OK, it's going to give me the editing window where I can add my code to this block. And the code that I want is this for loop and the polygon. Alan, if you didn't use the link, if you just started a new fresh thing and you didn't use the link, then you won't have the polygon block. But you can quickly build just a square by doing a repeat for and then grabbing a move and a turn. Oops, move and a turn. Doesn't really matter which turn you do. And saying repeat 4, move whatever 30 or whatever is what I have right now, and then a turn 90. And then I'll show what that looks like as we go. So you would put that code inside the for loop instead of the polygon block. Okay. So if I want to draw a certain number of nested squares, right now, if I say apply, and then I go grab this nested squares block, and I put a number in there, like 5 or whatever, and I click it, it's actually going to draw 10 of the same size of square. Oops, I forgot to clear my screen there. 10 of the same size of square on top of each other. So this 5 is doing nothing for me right now. And that's because the 5 gets saved as number, and then I haven't used number anywhere in my code yet. So if I wanted to draw 5 nested squares, think about what you would change here to do that. What number would you make 5? And it would be this 10, right? Because you would do 1 to 5. That would make 5 squares. That's where we're going to put our variable. So then if I change this to 20 now, it will draw 20 squares on top of each other. Yes, Jasper, good. And then this isn't quite what I want, because this is just drawing 20 boring squares on top of each other. What I want is for each square to be a different size. And here's the key to for loops. If you want something to change over time, that is probably your I variable. So whatever part you want to change, that's going to be your I. So if I want the size of the square, the length of the side to change, I want the I variable to go into the length. And I could literally just grab the I. However, here's what happens. I'm going to say apply. Anytime you make a change, make sure you say apply so that it saves the change to the block. So it's drawing 20 nested squares, but it started at length 1 and did length 2 and then like 3. And so it's teeny, tiny, tiny little squares. So just like we did before with the spiral, we want to grab from operators a multiplier onto that length to make it each one a little bit bigger. And you can play around with this multiplier. I think probably 5 is good. Somewhere between 5 and 10 is probably good for that. So I'm going to say apply, clear. And now if I draw my 20 nested squares, you can actually tell that there's 20. Let's try maybe 10. 10 might be good. There we go. And then if I wanted to draw just like 3 nested squares, this block will do that as well. So there's a couple of variations on this in the options for your homework. One is instead of drawing all squares, it's like draw all the polygons. So draw a triangle, then a square, then a pentagon, then a hexagon, then whatever those names are. And so it looks really cool and like nested like we did before, but just with a for loop doing the work for us. And another challenge is to try and get these squares to be centered in each other. And that's kind of almost like an algebra challenge in a way, and it's kind of fun to think about that. Okay. Questions on any of that? Stick them in the chat if you need me to repeat anything or help you with something. Okay. I'm going to clean up my code again. And then we are going to do one more little experiment. And and that is using a say block. So grab a say block, and then in operators, you're going to grab letter of and length of text. So take a minute to find those blocks. The letter and length blocks are under true. There's like a group of 4 right underneath true, right there. I find them hard to, like, when I'm glancing down the list, I overlook them a lot. Okay, so we're going to put, I guess we can just use world, that's fine. So this letter of world, if I click that, it's going to say W because W is the first letter of world. If I change it to last, I guess, that'll say a D because that's the last letter of world. And then I could put a number in here like 4, that should say L, etc. So it's basically, it's called indexing each letter and giving it a number. And then if I say what number I want, it'll tell me that the number that's in that space. This can be, well, we'll come back to that. So we'll come back to that letter of. Length of is going to give me how many characters are in whatever text I've typed in. I think I spelled that right. So if I didn't want to count to see how long that was, I can just have it count for me. So these ideas are something that are also really common in most, if not all, coding languages, where you want to know, you have some kind of like number that refers to a spot. And then for text, often we want to know how long that text is. Or there's something called list or array where you can store stuff in little spots. And you want to be like, tell me what's in that spot. That would be sort of like this. And you also want to know how many things you have. And you might want to do something like length of whatever thing you have. So those are really common, and you'll see them over and over if you keep taking coding. Okay, so the say block, we can actually have it, instead of just having the green thing pop up, we can have our sprite say the letter for us. And then if we get a for loop involved, watch this. I'm going to grab this for loop. Can anybody predict where I'm going with this? Instead of just saying a single letter, if I want to say every single letter, change the letter that I'm talking about, that change is I. So I want to say letter I of world. I'm going to change this to be something faster. Then if I click this, it's going to say WORLD, and then it's going to keep saying blank, 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 blank for 5 times because I didn't change the end to be the end of my word. So this word has 5 letters in it. If I do 5, there we go. If I wanted to do, okay, I have hello world here, classic first program in a coding language, print hello world. What if I only wanted to spell world? What number would I start with? Stick it in the chat if you figure it out. Take a guess. Take a wild guess. One. Okay, so 1 to 5 gave us hello. Okay. Take another well, 2. Hello. Now we're English. Yeah, that's okay. This is how we learn, right? Okay, that didn't work. Now what? This is exactly what you guys should be doing. All right. So what else? Somebody take another wild guess. 3. Are we gonna do this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now we're low. I want to do world. I want to start with the W. 5. All right, let's try 5. Okay, and let's make this 10 or something since we're running out of. Okay. What did it do? Oh, it started with the O with 5. Okay, we're getting closer. 6. 0. Okay, so the 6 gave us the space first. So 7 will let us start with the W. So it starts with 1. So if we start with 0, actually, what is 0 going to do? I actually don't know. Oh, it just skips the 0. So in a lot of languages, most other languages, indexing starts with 0. So your count versus your index is always off by 1. In Snap, indexing starts at 1. So the H is 1, the E is 2, the L is 3, the other L is 4, 5, 6, 7. So the W is 7. So if that's 7, what would we end at? Yeah, Jasper, you got it. 6 was close. 6 was the space. And by the way, spaces count. They're counting each character, and the space counts as a character. So if we were trying to see how long hello world is, okay, let's see, 12. Yeah, we got it. Then if we said length of hello world, I bet it's going to say 12. Unless it's 11. Oh, it's 11. So probably I didn't see the space at the end. If we watch really close, yeah, there's like a little hesitation at the end, so it went 1 too far. That was close though. So hello is 5, world is 5. The space adds 1 more. Yeah, 11. Okay. So what if I wanted to say hello world backwards? What number would go in the first spot and what number would go in the second spot? I want to say the whole thing backwards. 11 to 7. So 11 to 7 would give us world backwards. And if I wanted to say the whole thing backwards, what would I put in the second spot? Yes, 11 to 1. Yes. So now it's starting from 11 and counting back. Yeah, there we go. Okay, what if I changed that hello world to supercalifragilisticexpialidocious? Nobody wants to count that. And anytime I change this, it's going to change the length. Maybe I have a paragraph that I want to spell out, or maybe I want, whatever, some kind of quote or something that I want to spell out. Instead of putting a hard-coded number in here, like 11 or whatever this length is, 34, I can actually just find the length of the text. And even better, I could make a variable to hold my word or text or whatever. And then I can set that variable to that thing. And now I can use word in both places, and I don't have to like copy and paste word to both places. So I can put a word here or a phrase or a whatever, and it'll be used here and here. So now if okay, so it's going to say all the letters in supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. And if I wanted to say it backwards, I could just move this length and say this is 1, and then it'll start SOSUOICOD, whatever. Okay. All right. That is it for the demo. Your homework until next class is going to be to choose 3 related challenges out of the list of challenges that I'm giving you. So in, this is not the right page, but if we go into modules or my work, once it loads, our live class has 2.6 for loops that has the instructions. You're going to give me a screenshot. Oh, that's not published. There we go. You're going to give me a screenshot of your 3 challenges. Make sure your code and your drawings show. And that'll be it. And then next time we're going to talk about the project, and that'll be your homework, until our next class on the next Monday. So remember, you're going to see me on Wednesday morning at 10:40 because we do not have advisory this week. All right. Oh, I should stop recording, I suppose. Let's stop recording. Do you guys